Okay, I'll make a deal with you. If we go out on patrol and Gotham is quiet with no sign of the Joker, we come back here, have Christmas dinner, and watch It's a Wonderful Life.
You know, I've never seen that. I could never get past the title.
Welcome, Gothamites, to Geek Salad, episode 205, Wendy and Marvin, the animated series.
I'm waiting for that one to happen.
I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And we are waiting upon Catherine as we are experiencing some technical issues. Hopefully she'll be joining us in a few moments. But we did need to bring a very special guest in for today's episode. Direct from wherever he is bunkering in right now, it is Original Recipe Mike, original host of the show, Mike Cicerone. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Right.
I've been stuck in master's degree world, so that's pretty much taken up half my life. But I'm almost done working on my capstone. And I should be done in April. So, yeah,
Fantastic.
it's been a long journey.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
Thank you.
When we discussed what our topic was tonight, I knew it would call Mike like the siren song, because tonight we are actually filling in a blank that we left off when we talked about the Warner Brothers cartoons in November by discussing the DC animated series.
Andy, I kind of look at it as, let me just paint a picture for you. I want to kind of make it look like Batman Returns when Michael Keaton's just kind of sitting in his chair with his hand on his lip and the bat signal goes through the window. For me, it was not bat signal, but the cover of the original Asia album that you guys sent out to me. And that's pretty much what, and I just stood up and looked and I said, I'll be there. And here I am.
We never meant to be so bad to you, Mike.
Well, I was in the heat of the moment, but
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I know.
So we're saying.
Oh,
so
stop.
we're not.
Oh, it's good to be back, guys.
Well, now, as the sun will cross the sky. Never mind. Let's actually get on with this episode here. I want to get back to the topic before we completely blow the topic in about 5 minutes.
I need to put the yes riff in there.
So anyway, we are kind of delineating this between the releases of Batman the Animated Series, which finally showed up. Every episode has showed up on HBO Max, all the way up to Harley Quinn, which is also being released on HBO Max. So pretty much any tune under the DC Warner Brothers Animation Studio wheelhouse is there are no limits. So we have got
go watch them right now.
Go watch everything right now. We'll wait every single one of these.
Yep.
You know what? That actually might be an impossible. There's a lot.
Are you done? There is. I think they're done.
You think they're done with what?
Yeah, I think they're done watching.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. So I'm going to bring up a few of these real quick, based on our social media feedback. We'll go a little deeper in the weeds on this. So, and I do want to shout out a few podcasts that wanted to put in their 2 cents. So. Geek Peak Podcast, which is on Twitter at Geek Peak Pod, said Batman Beyond is my jam.
Yes.
So happy to put HBO Max, and the Harley Quinn show is one of my favorite discoveries of 2020. Had me crying, laughing multiple times. And they actually included a GIF here of King Shark breaking into a computer bank and just like biting this dude's head off and then just sitting down and work on the computer. Also, OG Batman animated film Mask of the Phantasm. That movie scared the hell out of me as a kid, but damn did I love it. Honorable mention to Batman versus Dracula. The Blood Bank Joker fight was chef's kiss. Our good friend Thomas from Movies After Work mentioned Batman the Animated Series was the stylistic epicenter of what Batman could be. And Harley Quinn is the DC show we didn't deserve but desperately needed. Breaking the fourth wall had mentioned, came here to comment that you got me into Harley Quinn, which Thomas probably did, or maybe I did. I don't know. I remember mentioning this. So... And then JVD of Crossover Collision, who is at Villains Demand, mentioned Batman Beyond, and it needs to be a movie.
I mean, at this point, yeah, you kind of just need to cast Michael Keaton as an old Batman and then find a young actor for Terry. It just has to happen.
Yeah, okay. Well, isn't that the entire point of Flashpoint though, where nobody gives a shit about the Flash, and it's just going to be a Batman movie with all of the Batman?
Flashpoint's just basically like, okay, this sucks. Let's just redo it again.
And she's gone.
And she's gone. I'm trying to dial her back in again. By the way, Breaking the Fourth Wall podcast, their Twitter is at Breaking the Fourth. But let's not leave all the fun to Twitter, because we did get some stuff from our friends on Facebook as well. Now I have to go find it because, Lord forbid, I could actually find this stuff and have it up because I'm that kind of professional. Yeah, there we go. We've got somebody just posted. Somebody else. I apologize. So no, Mike, you didn't get anything?
I didn't get anything.
All right.
I got some likes.
Oh, I found it. So, yes, on Facebook, Brian Presley mentioned, I loved Harley Quinn. Even got my wife to watch it. She didn't pick up on all the references and Easter eggs, but she also loved it. And that brings us to Steve Day, our friend at Ape Cod, who had mentioned that he wanted to say that Batman the Animated Series take on the Penguin was how Tim Burton was supposed to do it. But that makes me sound like the kind of incel fuckboy that cry-wanks to Harley Quinn, Mara Jade Finari fan art. So, game, set, and match. No, Steve and I have had a lot of conversations in the last week about like the how we can't talk Star Wars anymore because it's no longer fun to argue about stupid things in Star Wars.
It isn't, though.
There's usually some fuckboy there who thinks that just because Luke Skywalker showed up in an episode of The Mandalorian, all of a sudden they're going into Heir of the Empire.
Yeah, no.
And
everything in Star Wars sucks. Come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Hashtag not my boss.
They're all in their little, like, come on. They're all in their little, like, wood paneled, like, basements, complaining. So,
well, as Steve called them, incel fuckboys. So anyway, let's get moving with let's begin here with Batman the Animated Series. Now, up until I watched this series, I was unfamiliar of this character of I believe his name is Neil Batman. If maybe they made a movie about him, and maybe I might feel a little closer to this character had I known what his origin is, and if they showed it. They had a new one.
Wait. Are you talking about the guy that wears blue and can fly around and shoot lasers out of his eyes?
No, that's Superman.
Oh, okay.
The Ubermensch. It's the Ubermensch.
The Ubermensch. Yes, exactly. Oh, he's so many parallels. But yes, Batman the Animated Series, which we just mentioned, is now appearing on HBO Max. Has anybody gone back and watched any of these episodes since it hit HBO Max?
I have.
Not on HBO Max. I'd watched it on Toonami and Cartoon Network when they had it on.
Yeah.
It still holds up. It is still a solid, excellent show.
Well, it holds up because Tim Burton's Batman '89 still holds up to a certain extent.
Well, I also think too, you think about it, a lot of people really didn't know that Dark Knight quote version of Batman, because if you think about it, a lot of us grew up with the Adam West, doughy blue Batman, and the fun, and of course then you grew up with the Super Friends, and hey, old chum and all that stuff. So when you start seeing a whole dark Batman who's very gritty, it's like, oh, this is the Batman we should be seeing.
Well,
this is pretty awesome,
Well, when you think about it, it all started with the Dark Knight Return. Well, the Dark Knight graphic novels from Frank Miller.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was, once that hit the market, everybody was clamoring for, we need a real dark interpretation of Batman, and that's when Tim Burton came along with Batman '89.
Yep.
Which, let's face it, directly influenced the animated series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I think another reason that this series just seems so timeless, though, is that because it has a kind of an ambiguous setting, not location setting, but time setting.
Yeah,
it's slightly retro, but modern at the same time. It's a weird mishmash, but it works so well.
Yeah, because it had think about the one episode with the Gray Ghost, which is an old serial. That was a great episode because Adam West played the Gray Ghost.
Yeah,
and you get that old black and white look when Bruce is watching the old reels, and it's got that old serial sound. But yet, like I said, the Batmobile is very futuristic, and of course the Batcave is very futuristic. So it's like you said, Mike, it mixes really, really well.
Well, it's sort of I guess the best way to describe it, or it's sort of I would call it noir punk.
Yeah.
They have their steampunk and cyberpunk. Well, this is noir punk. You get that film noir feeling, but it's it still has a very modern touch to it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's something that really stood out to me upon watching it again. I don't think I've seen many of these in the last 20 years or so. But the fact that they've made the animation style, first of all, the fact that they do title cards makes it very reminiscent of the Bugs Bunny cartoons of the Warner Brothers studio. Right. So that was really kind of cool. And while there are things about the show looks and writing wise that didn't age all that well, I do feel like Paul Dini's just overall aesthetic, I think we can all agree, has lasted throughout almost 30 years. So we're 28 years out from this, and that look still continues to this day.
Well, you know what?
Their animated movies.
Absolutely. You know what? Credit to Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, for taking what is essentially Tim Burton's gothic noir sensibilities and basically making it their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Which it's, if they say imitations of sincerest form of flattery, well, they're not imitated. They just took it and made it their own. It belongs to them now, basically what it is, especially when it's associated with Batman.
Mm. Right.
And even the theme song is very reminiscent. I don't know if Danny Elfman did. I don't think.
Danny Elfman did the theme song, but Shirley Walker did the music.
Right.
For the first season, and I guess his conductor wrote the music for the second season.
Yeah, Shirley Walker was his conductor. She's the one who essentially is credited with the music. He wrote the animated, the theme to it, which that appears on Music for the Dark and Theater, which is an amazing collection of Danny Elfman's movie themes.
And it's so reminiscent of the '89 movie. It's almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like the animated. It's not the Batman '89 theme, but it's a
callback to it.
It's called right. And it works great because it's
still amalgamation, and
it even still stays with the series after that. I know we're getting a little far ahead here, but this Batman Beyond episode where you do hear that theme song a few times when Bruce is doing something, so it lasts. It almost becomes the Batman. It becomes Batman's theme. It is his song, and it never goes away.
No, and and you know, and another credit to the show is, I don't think there's any other DC property that has ever been so influenced by an animated series as Batman has been. I mean, it basically became to define Batman.
It's the blueprint.
It is. It became. Yeah, somehow
it really is. It was the blueprint and the foundation for what really took animation. And you know, you think about it, you look back on like the Super Friends; those have not aged well at all. They have not aged well. They're really just a parody. But you know, it's like, but it gave us something. But then someone said, let's make Batman, but let's give it a more, dare I say, realistic look to it and a feel to it. And let's actually make storylines that are actually, like, you know, relevant. And a lot of these storylines will tie over with the other series in the future.
And I mean, I don't know of any other series, like TV series, that created like multiple characters, which then became canon in the comic book.
Or the mere testament of the fact that they created Harley Quinn out of this series, and now she is hands down one of the most popular characters in all of DC.
But not just create new characters, but redefine existing characters.
Yeah.
Yes,
like Mr. Freeze. He was no longer a joke mad scientist. No, he was a tragic figure.
Character, right. All he was trying to do is basically resurrect his wife. Yeah. But what happened to him just made him cold. He didn't care how he did it.
I can no longer survive out of a sub-zero environment. Tonight I mean to pay back the man who ruined my life. Our lives. Even if you have to kill everyone in the building to do it. Think of it, Batman. To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
So it was one of those things where he was a villain, but he wasn't.
But even characters that would be considered like D-list villains, like Clayface, is given depth.
Yes.
You know? And it's like, and for a cartoon to do that is, I mean, that's unbelievable.
Michael and Sarah as you know, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
You couldn't have gotten a better voice for that. He was just spot on.
And I mean, you mentioned Harley Quinn, but not only Harley Quinn, but another character was created in the series, Renee Montoya.
Yep.
Who became a much larger character in the comics.
Was she? Remind me, refresh me on who the character was.
She was just one of the cops.
Wasn't she Bullock? Wasn't she like Bullock's kind of pseudo partner from time?
Yeah. In the comics, she eventually became the Question.
And Bullock, I'll tell you, Bullock was a great character too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Detective Bullock was a great, because you know they gave him a decent role, and he was kind of comic relief, but he was also pretty cool too. You know,
he was also like the embodiment of that possible corrupt. You're never really sure if Bullock is corrupt or not.
Yeah.
But you can see it is like, yeah, you can see like, oh yeah, he's one of the dirty ones.
Hmm.
Especially in the way he mistrusted Batman. But
he mistrusted Batman, but I don't think it was so much of a dirty one. I think it was more like along the lines of, he was like, you know, I don't like these vigilantes. They're taking my job.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I'm a real cop. He's a fake cop, you know, and he's making us look bad, you know. And I think that was like, he was bitter.
He was a good cop, but he was kind of the antithesis of Batman.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about this series as well was that every episode legitimately felt like it was pulled out of a comic book. Right. I think to an extent that a lot of cartoons prior to this were unable to do. They really felt like they were pulled straight off the pages of it, especially if you think about stuff like one of my favorite episodes, and actually the one I introduced my son to as his first episode, was the Almost Got Him.
Oh, that is a great episode.
That is a fantastic episode because
who's that going?
I don't know who. Somebody plug your headphone in.
Oh, sorry, my thing came out. Hold on.
Damn it! So the thing about that is it's very little. Batman almost very rarely features in his own show. The villains take center stage on that to a point where it's not annoying. There are plenty of villains, and I'll be honest with you. I was Saturday years old when I found out that Paul Williams, who, by the way, Mike, we mentioned this offline, the Phantom of the Paradise, he was the lead. He was the villain in Phantom of the Paradise, but he was also the lead songwriter for the Muppets. He voiced the Penguin.
Right.
Really?
And I was completely unaware of that until this Saturday when I'm watching this episode with my son, and I'm like, that voice sounds really familiar. And I saw that, oh, it's Paul Williams.
Wow.
Yeah. But the episode itself really felt like one of those old Neil Adams stories from the 1970s, where it was just like, there was one where this group of kids were talking about, when they thought they saw Batman.
Well,
and it was very similar to that, where they tell these stories, and they're phenomenal stories.
Well, it's Batman. It's Batman the myth, the legend. It's like,
was that the one? No. Was that in the later series where the animation changed?
No.
And they had each one of them was telling a different story. Like one was almost doing the Batman Returns.
That was part of. I know which one you're talking about.
It was in
each vignette is animated by has different animation style and stuff like that.
Right.
But it was part of it was released as part of one of the movies, or Batman anime. It was I have the DVD compilation too, and I can't remember what it is, but I know what you're talking about.
But the other one with the kids, didn't they find Batman and had to kind of keep him safe?
Yeah, no, it was part of that.
That episode? Well, wasn't that? But that was a different episode in the original series, the first animated series. That was Batman got hurt, and these kids had to kind of keep him safe and kind of distract whatever villains are looking for him.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Was that the one? Because again, it's been so long since I've seen all of them.
No. Almost Got Him is where the Joker, Killer Croc, Penguin, Two-Face, and Poison Ivy.
They're sitting around the table talking about it.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being Batman was Killer Croc the whole time.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to go? Me! There I was, holed up in this quarry. When Batman came nosing around, he was getting closer.
And?
I threw a rock at him.
So, Harvey, what became of the giant penny?
It was a big rock. They actually let him keep it.
But actually, Andy, it's kind of weird that you mentioned that it feels like a 1970s, comic book arc, because apparently it was influenced by a 4-issue story arc told in 1977 called "Where Were You the Night That Batman Was Killed?"
Ooh.
And each issue had 4 villains recount their claims to have killed Batman.
And they're all a bunch of filthy liars.
Yep. So
another one that I watched 2 episodes on Saturday to kind of introduce him to the series. And Mike, I know this is one of your favorites because you mentioned this multiple times, is The Gray Ghost.
I love this one.
That was a great episode.
Quite honestly, it's some of the best acting Adam West has ever done.
This place is amazing. It's just like the Gray Ghost's lair. It's almost an exact replica. Let me show you something else. As a kid, I used to watch you with my father. The Gray Ghost was my hero. So it wasn't all for nothing.
This is one of my all-time favorite episodes of the series.
It's just what's interesting about it, though, is that it's not about the actual villain itself. Because let's be honest, the villain in this episode sucks.
Yeah. The toy bomber. Yeah, okay.
Seriously, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where the Treehouse of Horror, where the comic book guy is the collector. Yeah. No, he'll no longer be mentioned package.
No, it was like the discount toy man.
Yeah.
Really, it was bad, but it was great to see. It was great to see they brought back Adam West kind of as a tribute, and how like Kevin Conroy's Batman looked up to the Gray Ghost, and that was a really and I bet you deep down that was kind of like an honor thing where it's like, hey, I'm playing a guy that you made famous, even though it was a very different style and it was very goofy in a sense, but it worked and people loved it. But I remember it kind of reminds me of even like there was a David Tennant Doctor Who episode where it was a quick thing where they brought back Peter Davidson for a thing where they had like some weird thing where the two doctors met each other. And David Tennant goes, the main doctor goes, "You were my doctor." So it was like, it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
So,
but we should also probably mention. We should probably mention the episode that won the series a Primetime Emmy. That was Robin's Reckoning.
You can't take this one. Zuko's mine.
Sorry, Robin. But on this team, I call the shots.
But I've waited half my life.
Batman out.
Oh, no. He's not gonna ace me out.
Please, Master Dick, you must do as he says.
Not this time, Alfred. Maybe not ever again.
Ooh,
was that the two-parter?
Yes.
Where he was going to try to get vengeance on who was the villain?
Tony Zuko.
Tony Zuko, thank you, because he was the one that killed his parents.
Yeah.
Right.
That was because I remember in the first time they introduced Robin, they kind of gave him he was hinting at the holy this Batman. They kind of made him goofy, but they kind of immediately eliminated that.
Yeah.
And they made him a little bit more of a kind of like in a sense a brat, but at the same time didn't look like an idiot sidekick.
Yeah.
That Tony Zuko episode, that two-parter episode was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting too because they showed a lot of restraint in the first half of the first season of not including Robin at all, making it more akin to the Burton Batman movies. And then when they did bring him in, it wasn't like, you suck.
They made him actually pretty cool.
They made him into a partner, not just a sidekick.
Right. And it wasn't like a goofy, and it wasn't just a goofy, oh, gee, Batman, it wasn't like lame.
Yeah. Right. So anything else you want to say about Batman, the animated series, before we move on to any of this vast list of other animated shows?
I think what was great about the series was they would go back to things. Like, for example, when they did the Man-Bat, they went back to the episode again with the wife turning into the Man-Bat. And then they had the computer Hardak, which was basically creating androids of everybody.
Yeah.
And then they brought it back where there was an android that Batman created at one point. So it was the great thing left over.
The great thing about the series is it was its own contained universe.
Yeah.
So you knew that even though it was episodic, that something that happened in one episode was going to reverberate in another episode or something like that.
Right. And it was even there was that one episode where there was a doctor who basically gave this gymnast a serum that made him a stronger athlete, but ended up turning him into a werewolf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There was that episode. I remember that one. And that doctor later showed up in the Justice League Unlimited as a part of Cadmus.
Mm.
So it was great. It was great, again, just to see when they revisit something. And actually, one of my other favorite episodes, this is kind of like a guilty pleasure one, where the dumpy guy had to deal with the Joker.
Yes.
And he basically tried to run him off the road. He's like,
we watched that episode too, actually. That's a fun episode.
The Joker. It was hysterical.
Righty. Oh, chuckers. Here's the deal. I'll let you off if you promise to do a little favor for me.
Oh, okay. What?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it yet. You just toddle on back to your mundane, meaningless little life, and when I need you, I'll call. There? Good. Great. I'll be in touch.
He's like, okay, I've got bored with you, and he just throws out all his information and stuff. And let's just say, how awesome was Mark Hamill as the Joker? I mean, that's the definitive Joker.
I can't believe we even didn't touch on that.
No, I mean, I think we
have defined the Joker.
Let's end it with that, because it's first, when you think about the voice of Mark Hamill, you think Luke Skywalker, you think, the Jedi, the hero, and all this stuff. When he played that Joker character, it was like, holy fuck, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't see anybody else as the Joker, even though you've had Jack Nicholson and other actors playing him, and Heath Ledger and all that stuff. But it's just like Mark Hamill was the Joker.
It's you know what it is. It's Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. They are Batman and Joker.
Yeah.
Just because especially when it transferred from Batman the Animated Series to Arkham, Batman Arkham Asylum, the video game.
Yeah.
And the Arkham series, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is it totally works.
Yeah. Oh, here's a funny little thing. You know how there was that Justice League action cartoon that came out a while ago? It was only like 15 minutes long and whatever. They did a special episode with just Mark Hamill, where the Joker and the Trickster, who have both been played by Mark Hamill live or voice-wise, capture Mark Hamill. And basically, the two of them are sitting in the front. And of course, Mark Hamill is starting doing voice to trick each other, just thinking they're insulting each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Swamp Thing shows up, and apparently in that animated series, Mark Hamill voiced the Swamp Thing as well. And he also voiced Solomon Grundy. So it's like they had the whole episode where he voiced everybody, including himself. I thought that was brilliant. It's like, yeah, he didn't know Mark Hamill was a great voice actor too. To the joke, they finally caught him because they were fighting each other and they got distracted. And the cops yeah, he didn't know Mark Hamill was also a very talented voice actor. Look it up; it's pretty funny.
Yeah, Mark Hamill definitely has earned so much credit for playing the Joker, and that is, yeah. So, all right, so let's move on from Batman the Animated Series to Superman the Animated Series, which I'm so happy to see that Tim Daly got work after Wings.
Yeah, I mean, he is a solid actor. I take nothing away from him.
No, he did a solid job as the voice for Superman.
He really did.
He absolutely did. While there were periods of this show that were just direct knockoffs of Batman, the Paul Dini style really held up. That pilot, that 2-episode pilot, is amazing.
Yes.
It's the first time they got Brainiac right.
It was kind of cool that Brainiac was the main computer hub of Krypton. I thought that was a great little thing.
You're saving yourself.
I must. After all, am I not the repository of all Kryptonian knowledge? Should I not be saved above all?
You self-righteous monster.
Temper, Jor-El. If you stop me, there won't even be a memory of Krypton left. All its culture, its wonders and glory will be dust in the cosmos. Is that what you want?
Why did you lie?
If the Council knew Krypton was doomed, they would frantically put me to work on calculating an evacuation plan. A futile gesture.
Oh, it was a great way to tie in the destruction of Krypton to one of Superman's greatest enemies.
And can we all just take a moment to realize that Shooter McGavin was basically Superman's father. And I'm sorry, I'm surprised when he didn't put him in the thing. He didn't do his little shoot, choke on that, Kal-El, and just shoot him off.
But I mean, to have the entire first episode and not even have Superman in it.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, honestly, even the first 2 episodes, there was no Superman.
Well, that's very much in the tradition of Richard Donner Superman. Superman 78.
Oh yeah.
We didn't see the blue tights until 45, 50 minutes.
45 minutes in, and it was for a second and a half.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you also figure that movie was kind of done in 3 parts. You had the first part was Krypton, the second part was growing up in Smallville, the third part was Superman. So it really is broken up into 3 sections.
Yeah. Just like the first 3
right,
episodes.
Mike, it's Krypton.
I'm sorry. I should have said it's Krypton.
God damn it.
I'm sorry. It's been a while.
And I will say, the best thing that Superman the Animated Series did, introduced us to Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I have a deal to offer you.
I'm listening.
As long as I have the rock, you can't stop me. But it is bothersome to have you always trying. So, the deal is this. You leave me and my operations alone, and I and my little green rock will leave you alone.
I don't make deals with criminals.
I control everything in this town, Superman. Your cooperation is not really necessary. The offer was merely a courtesy.
Again, another great voice character, and he was phenomenal as Lex Luthor.
And he keeps showing up in all the Lego Batman games.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of the voice actors are great. It was what's his name was Metallo.
Malcolm
McDowell was Metallo. Brad Garrett was Lobo.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My card. The name's Lobo. That's L as in lacerate, O as in obliterate, B as in disembowel, and O as in Oh, I guess I can use obliterate twice, huh? What do you think?
I think you're a certifiable madman.
That was actually really good.
The Lobo episode is great because he's trying to because this there was an episode where there's the zookeeper of Caption, a space zookeeper that hires Lobo to find the last Kryptonian, which is Superman. And at one point, he scares everybody. He's sitting, Lobo's sitting in a bank with a hat on. He's like, is he going to show up? He goes, oh, mosquito! Just shoots it. So he did a great, I thought Brad Garrett did a great job as Lobo.
And one of my favorite bits of casting was Gilbert Gottfried as Mr. Mixer Spitlick.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That was another good casting.
I won! In your face, Superman!
No, loser. In yours.
Oh, shoot my monkey. I skywrote my own name. Backwards.
Twice.
You were just toying with me the whole time. Even from the start.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was a great episode too, where he keeps tormenting Superman. Finally, Superman just he's not playing around. He's just going about his life. He doesn't care what Mr. Spitlick's doing. He's just doing everything, he gets totally bored with him.
Yep. You'd see 1 month later, 1 month later. Yeah. and this way, at one point, you'd see Mrs. Pidlick trying to and there's the woman, she goes, come on, Mitzi, can you just get over? And she's trying to dress hot for him. Yeah. And he's working on this big machine to take down Superman.
Actually, you just reminded me something about Mike about Harley Quinn in how adult Batman the Animated Series was, and how sexualized Harley was around Joker. Yeah,
she dressed in lingerie. He's come on, Mr. J.
And again, not the best example of a healthy relationship. So
no, exactly.
There were some great tie-ins when they finally brought Batman and Superman together, and they had that little arc where
that first episode where the
Lex Luthor and Joker were working together.
Right. Yeah. Now, I'll admit, I didn't like how they animated Batman the series later on because I thought it almost looked like it took a step back in the animation. And it wasn't bad. It was it looked like because they had to fit it with Superman because Superman was very different style, so they had to kind of fit it with that.
Well, that's a credit. That's a credit to the production team that rather than taking Gotham and turning the lights on, they made Metropolis into its own thing.
Right, but I think Superman also brought in other characters. It was great that they brought in other characters. For example, let's go with Batman first. They brought the whole thing together with them and how there's one point where Batman's taking somebody down and Superman's he just comes in. That's enough. That you got your answer. So, Batman throws him. Superman whacks him. He's like, I heard you were crazy, but I didn't think you were stupid. And then of course he goes, Bruce Wayne, and he goes, you peaked. and then they're talking. He's like, I want a vigilante. So he also takes a little Ziploc bag of kryptonite. And Superman's like, he goes, doesn't take much, does it? Just so you know, the Joker's got a whole pound of this. Just so you should know. And then later on, you find out Batman put a little tracer on Superman's costume, and And he sees her, he gets a little smile, a little two finger, like, "Hey, see you later." And he's like, he gets like touche. So you get a little bit of the, the love-hate relationship starts there.
That's always been kind of.
But you also,
their
it was kind
dynamic.
of cool. But it was great because you brought in different villains, you brought in different heroes. You brought in Parasite, which was a great villain.
Yeah.
You brought in like Metallo was great, another great villain. I'm trying to think who else was in there.
And quite frankly, for me, the best Darkseid is always gonna be Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside, absolutely.
So good that they brought him back for Harley Quinn.
But going back a little bit, they also brought in like Dr. Fate.
Yeah.
They brought in Dr. Fate. They brought in Green Lantern, which of course I went ape shit for. But then they I'm trying to think.
You know what? But you know what? That's the thing.
Flash.
You know what? That's the thing. The thing about Superman the animated series is that you can bring in more of the superpowers. Whereas Batman had to be a little bit more down to earth and grounded.
You had to kind of make it more like You had to make it more like Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You had to kind of keep it in that world. But they say what Superman is. It opened up the world.
Right. Exactly. And
that was
basically. And it led into basically Justice League, into the Justice League animated series.
Right. But Mike, you brought up Darkseid for a minute, and I want to talk about when they first kind of brought in Darkseid to really fight off Superman, and it got to the point where Superman pretty much just got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the series. So of course they have him like captured, and they're bringing, they're kind of like Apocalypse is going through like Metropolis with the tank and everything. But eventually Superman breaks out. Then Orion and the New Gods show up and basically said, Earth's under our protection. You got to go. Because they brought in Orion and the whole New Gods and all of them.
Yeah.
But of course, they all leave. And of course, there was also the cop Dan Turpin, who kind of had a love-hate relationship with Superman. I think Joseph Bologna played that role, the voice of him, Joey Bologna.
Now, this was the series finale, though, actually.
It wasn't.
Is that the one?
This episode wasn't. This was in the middle of the season because at one point Darkseid leaves. He goes, "Oh, before I leave," and then his Omega beams kill Dan Turpin, and Superman just basically takes one of his tanks and destroys it. And so then at the end of the episode, they have a funeral for Dan Turpin, and then later on you see Superman standing over. And I teared up a little bit for this one because it was actually they killed off a character, and you see, like in Love and Mary, Dan Turpin, a real hero, and Superman goes,
In the end, the world didn't really need a Superman. Just a brave one.
Oh, yeah.
And he puts his hand on the thing, and it's like a little bit of like a sad moment. But, Mike, what you're talking about is the end of the series was... It was the episode where Superman got brainwashed.
Yeah.
And he was like brainwashed by Darkseid, became his like minion, but then he got out of it. But then of course, that led up to Dr. Hamilton being afraid of him because, he had done all these bad things. So at one point, it ended with the series of, "Will the world ever trust me again?"
Yeah. Well, that actually the ending of that one was just really cool because Batman's just he's pissed off at Apocalypse. Darkseid, and he just goes and he just starts beating the shit out of Darkseid.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and he like completely knocks him down, and then he's like shocked to see all the minions of Apocalypse.
All the citizens of Apocalypse are still on Darkseid's. It's like it blew Superman's mind. It's like this man's a tyrant. He is.
How can you still
How can you still love him?
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. It was very interesting to see that. And, like I said, at the end of the series, of course, after all the things he'd done, brainwashed is like Darkseid's kind of quote unquote son.
Yeah.
And at one point, after he had kind of come to his senses, he'd done all those things, people started to not trust Superman anymore.
Yeah.
And, he was with Lois and goes, like I said, he ended the series with like, how he's even going to trust me again. Like, he would work with Dr. Emil Hamilton throughout the whole series. Like, Dr. Hamilton created his lead suit, created a space suit, redesigned the pod he got taken in, which helped him find Kara.
Yeah.
And they brought in Supergirl. So he'd worked with him the whole time, and now because like Superman was kind of pissed off at how his life was taken from him, kind of channeled his anger toward Emil Hamilton accidentally, and then Hamilton's like afraid of him. Like his friend is now afraid of him, and that leads into something later.
That's big. That's it basically embodied Superman's biggest fear.
Right,
and that he would go out of control and nobody would be able to stop him.
And I think that's what made the animated series of Superman great, because they ended on a note of making him not like, I'm the perfect superhero that no one's going to hate. And I think it made it a little more, again, you say realistic, the sense of, hey, this guy's pretty powerful. What if he actually ever does go bad and tries to take over the world? So it started getting people thinking about that. And I think that's what made it ended on kind of a down note in a sense, but a questionable note.
It still did it better than Zack Snyder.
And
very true.
But it also that ending kind of perfectly tied into what came next.
Right. Which is
Justice League.
Justice League.
I just want to go back one more thing. There's a great episode where they couldn't find Batman, so Superman dressed up as Batman.
Yes,
and took down the whole Rogues Gallery. At one point, at one point, Bane crushes him with a rock. Also, you see the rock come up, and he breaks out, and Robin goes, "Yeah, he's been working out."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Robin knew, and he's just like hanging back.
Yeah,
and watching Superman beat the crap out of all these people.
And you find out that, Brainiac had put nanoprobes in Batman and brainwashed him. And there was an episode, which will come into play later, that Brainiac had captured Lex Luthor to rebuild him.
Yes.
And there's a tie-in later with that. So I wanted to bring that up just quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk about Justice League now, which is like the third out of there were 4 Prime series out of this entire discussion that we're gonna talk about here, and Justice League is like the third of these.
Yeah. And this was a Justice League where there were only I think 6 or 7 members.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, John Stewart,
Wally
West, Flash, John Jones, Martian Manhunter, and Shaira Hull as Hawkgirl.
I'll admit, when I first saw John Stewart, I'm like, he was an okay Green Lantern. But the way they did him in the series, I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
Oh, you know what?
Because I was a big Hal Jordan fan, but I liked that they really brought John Stewart into it. And actually, it was like better than I expected. I was actually really impressed.
Well, Mike, for our generation, Hal Jordan is Green Lantern. But
I'm glad they brought him in.
For a lot of people who grew up on Justice League, it's John Stewart.
Right.
And it's because the Justice League animated series did such a good job of characterizing who he is.
Absolutely. And I got to say, I loved it because I think the best thing was when him and Flash were together, it was almost like a kind of a goofball comedy team where, John Stewart was always the serious one and Flash was always the goofy one. So when the two of them would team up, it was hysterical.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, it's in the old team up, it would be, okay, Hal Jordan and Barry Allen were the comic relief.
Right.
Well, Wally West is still the comic relief, but John Stewart is the straight man. And it's just like he just gets sick of Wally's shenanigans.
Yeah.
And the romance that they actually built between Hawkgirl and Green Lantern was legitimately touching.
Yes.
You know how I feel about you.
John.
And I know you feel the same way.
It's not that simple. John, this can't go any further.
Why not?
It's crazy. We work together.
So, gives us something in common.
We can't be worrying about each other when we're fighting the bad guys.
Too late for that. What else you got?
It was a very slow build-up too, and it culminates in the finale. But
I did enjoy though the tension between Wonder Woman and Batman.
Yeah.
And Batman just having
the sexual tension
having nothing to do with it, wanting nothing to do with it.
I'm talking about going down there and having some fun. Maybe with someone special. No dating for the Batman. It might cut into your brooding time.
1. Dating within the team always leads to disaster. 2. You're a princess from a society of immortal warriors. I'm a rich kid with issues. Lots of issues. And 3. If my enemies knew I had someone special, they wouldn't rest until they'd gotten to me through her.
Next.
I think it would have been great if they had because they kind of hooked up throughout the series, but never really did. And I loved it. It was because it got better.
Well, no, also because it put the trope of Superman and Wonder Woman always being the ones that are supposed to be together.
Right.
Right.
No, I thought Batman and Wonder Woman would have been a great couple. But there was some great episodes in the first season. The only thing I didn't like about the first season was the animation, how they made Superman's face. They gave him a lot of lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Thankfully they fixed it in the second season. They made him look more like the animated series. But the first season, he looked very too chiseled. I think that was the look I was kind of looking for. I don't know.
Yeah. They kind of gave him a little bit more a harder edge feature.
But was it George Newbern took over the voice, and he did a great job as well. I thought he fit the role very well.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, it is a fun series, and how many? This only went 2 or 3 seasons?
It only ran for 2 seasons.
2 seasons as Justice League, and then 2 more seasons as Justice League Unlimited.
Right. When things just kind of they just started throwing shit at the wall, oh, we can throw this character. We can do this character. We can do this character.
Well, they didn't because they were trying to introduce more characters, which there was a lot, but they made some decent storylines with those characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, with Justice League, there were 2 seasons, but they're both 26 episodes. Justice League Unlimited, there were 3 seasons, but they each 13 episodes.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, there were more episodes of Justice League than Justice League Unlimited.
Right.
Cool.
But I think what's cool about... Okay, Andy.
No, go ahead. Because
I was just saying...
Move on, but if you've got something to say about Justice League, go say it before we move on.
I mean, I watch Justice League constantly, and I just really thought, again, it just took everything that we loved about Batman, Superman, and just continued from it. And what was great about that series was they would take storylines from the old series and move it into this. And I'll talk about it in Unlimited. Right now, it's going to about Justice League. And it was great how they kind of add the characters. You got more of a backstory of Wonder Woman. They brought in the Secret Society. I mean, it was just a great way to see them do, quote unquote, the Super Friends, but with a better writing.
Do it right.
Yeah.
And there was a great episode where I think it was Flash, Green Lantern, I think it was Hawkgirl, and Martian Manhunter. I think it was 3 or 4 of them got zapped into an alternative world, and it was very, very Golden Age. So it was like a takeoff of the Justice Society. So they had a character called the Green Guardsman, and that was voiced by William Katt. There was another episode called there was another character called Tom Turbine. He was voiced by Ted McKinley. And then there was the Streak. Yep, the Streak. But he was voiced by, you ready for this, Andy? David Naughton.
Yeah. Ooh.
So they had so they were they were supposed to be the Green Guardsman looked very much like the Alan Scott. So it was the Alan Scott Green Lantern.
Right, right.
So, and then they had Catman. This was Black Cat, the character, and then of course a Black Canary character as well. So they go in to the Justice Society of America home, and there's a whole scene where it's they make it very 50s. Okay, let's she goes, come on, Hawkgirl, we have to go make coffee for the rest of them. So they made it very the girls are in the kitchen while the guys are talking. So it was very, very yeah. But you found out that the whole thing was made up by there's this little character, Neil Patrick Harris, who's this young guy who's so it's their little their honorary member, oh, come on, little lad, come on, you're gonna be part of our group. And you find out he was this guy that was mutated.
Oh.
And he created this whole world with his mind. So you find out that he's the real villain, and he created the world, the secret, the Justice Guild, and all this other stuff. And at one point, the Justice Guild realized, wait, if we take out what's his name, we won't exist. He's like, we died fighting for this world once, we're going to do it again. So of course they all come in and help the Justice League, and it was kind of an interesting little thing. It was a tribute to that older style comic.
Actually, one of my favorite parts from Justice League is actually happens in the series finale, the 3-part star-crossed finale.
Okay.
And because like the Earth's being taken over by the Hawk people,
the Thermagarians.
Yeah. And so they the Justice League, the reigning Justice League, all have to like, kind of go undercover, but they're like kind of debating whether or not they should take off their masks.
Oh, Wally, what? Well, Flash did that. He's like, hey, I like you guys, but I don't want to tell you my secret identity.
For the time being, we're gonna have to go underground.
How exactly do we hide when the entire planet is looking for us?
They're looking for the Justice League. Without our costumes, we are merely ordinary citizens.
Hold on a second here. What about the whole secret identity thing? I mean, I trust you guys, but I'm not sure I'm ready to...
Wally West, Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne. Show off.
And then, of course, Flash
actually,
goes,
my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes is when Lex Luthor takes over Flash's Wally's body.
Oh, yeah.
And he takes off the mask.
Lex, you're having a difficult day. If nothing else, I can at least learn the Flash's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
Well, it was funny when Flash took his mask off. Was the one who goes, "Hey, red hair, it suits you." So, but there was also another episode. It was a 2-part one where there was like an alternate future where Vandal Savage, like, basically helped the Nazis win.
There were a lot of 2-parter episodes in this.
Right. I remember some great Vandal Savage episodes because there's another one where Superman got zapped into the future and he didn't have his power. And he finds out that Vandal Savage had taken over the world with some weapon he created, but it destroyed everything.
Yeah.
And Vandal's like, yeah, I did this. Hey, you want to come over for dinner? So it's like him and Superman are like left over. And he's like, yeah, I screwed this up. And I've had, 300 years to think about this because he's, immortal. And he basically says, if you can find this thing, we can send you back. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I did so this doesn't happen.
Mm.
So I thought that was an interesting episode where a villain basically says, I'm remorseful for what I did.
Yeah.
Then there was another one with actually had the Joker, where he had the Royal Flush Gang, and he like took over like the airwaves of Vegas, and he like planted bombs all over Vegas. So at one point they had to fight the Royal Flush Gang, and at one point you see like Joker doing like commentary the whole time. He's like, let's go to Superman. Looking around, looking as dumb as ever. Oh, you must be using that X-ray vision of his. But the thing about that episode was like he had like hired these people to become the Lord Flush Gang, but when they brought out Ace, she was this experimental like child who had these mental powers that could like manipulate like reality. And it became this whole thing where, oh yeah, here's my ace in the hole, and brought her out. And she basically almost fucked up everybody.
Mm.
So that was a really good episode, too.
So, all right, well, let's move on to the fourth of like the 4 big DC EAU series. And another one I'm not all that, I never really got dug into, but I know both the mics are wicked into this, Joe. I'm fairly certain you are too. Batman Beyond.
Mr. Wayne wants to offer you a job.
A job? It's not much, mind you. I find that in my old age, I could use a part-time assistant. A gopher. Go for this, go for that. An ally, as it were. Would you be interested?
Well, of course he would. Wouldn't you, honey? I mean, to work with someone as famous as Mr. Wayne.
Sure. I warn you, I can be a difficult taskmaster. I accept nothing short of excellence from all who work for me.
I think I can handle it.
Very good then, Mr. McGinnis. Welcome to my world.
Such a fantastic show.
Absolutely. It was. It's a show that really was a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the role of Batman and you're taking a very iconic character. You're talking top 3 all-time characters of the DC universe. And now you're basically going to say, all right, what happens if he gets old? What happens when he has to retire? Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
And it really was one of those things where you bring in now a new character, a kid who's basically, he's got some, I don't want to say behavior problems, but he's had some run-ins with trouble. But
he's basically Jason Todd without...
Right, but he tries to do the right thing, but he also gets himself in trouble at times. And it's a very futuristic time. And I'll tell you, it was a high risk, high reward, and it worked. I mean, it went on for 3 seasons.
I mean, right from the opening theme song, it is a very, it's not like this instrumental, like regal one that you've had before. This was just like kind of very, very
heavy
electronic, very guitar, yeah.
Right.
And like weird like images flashing across the screen, but like it is so stylistic, but it's so cool and it fits so well.
Yeah, and it's funny because you see like the first episode where it's still kind of in that present-ish state, but Batman's now much older and he's in the black Batman Beyond suit where he basically has to save this little this like woman, and of course his heart starts to go, and he ends up pulling a gun, desperately grabbing a gun that he sees to like fend off himself, and then he realizes, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, when he realizes he almost resorted to using a gun,
which is like everything he's against.
Yeah, then he realizes, no, I can't do it anymore,
and he just says never again. Puts a suit and just shuts everything down. And then in comes Terry McGinnis.
Yep. 20 years later.
And they did a great job with him.
Yeah.
It's funny. The father is played by Michael Gross, who was in Family Ties. And he's killed off he's supposed to be killed off by Jokers, who are basically the fan club of the original Joker.
Yeah. It's great because they like took like, they created both new villains that kind of had shades of old villains, but they also like found new ways to like take old villains and make them new again. It really
well, let's kind of go back for a second. You had a character called Ink.
Yeah.
And would you say she was kind of like the Clayface of that time?
Very much so.
Because she could shapeshift her body. Then they did bring back Mr. Freeze. They cloned his head because they had this doctor that could like recreate him, but of course it didn't go right. Then you actually had there was an episode where some of the athletes of the high school had got this like steroid. It was like a patch that would make them really strong, and it was based on Bane's venom.
Yeah.
And of course they said, well, where's Bane? He must be creating this, and he's basically this like frail guy in like in a wheelchair who's basically pretty much a vegetable.
Yeah, too much usage of venom just completely destroyed
him.
Yeah.
And they do bring back the Royal Flush Gang as well.
Right, like a futuristic version, because I think the Queen character was the ancestor of the original. So it's like it was her, she was the original ancestor. The best episode, though, I think, of Batman Beyond was the Egg Baby. Do you remember that one?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, so there was an episode. You know how, like, when you're in high school, you have the health class and you have to take care of an egg for a week?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so there was an episode where they had these eggs where they were, like, supposed to be electronic eggs. And Terry got set up with, like, the hot blonde chick as, like, the parents, and they had to take care of it. So, throughout the episode, he's got to, like, and basically, you know, they have to take care of like a child. You have to stimulate it and everything. And of course, if you drop it, it dies. So there's one episode where the girl says, "Hey, Terry, I can't take care of this. I have to go out with my boyfriend. You take care of it." So at one point, he's got to take it with him. And this one point, you sit in the Batcave, and Bruce goes, "Do you have to take that thing with you everywhere you go?" He's like, "It's part of my grade." And then at one point, he's got the thing with him, but he loses it to like whatever gang he's with. He's like, "I gotta find that egg." And Bruce is like, "Really?" He's like, "This is health, whatever." He's like, "If I fail this class, I have to take it again. Have you ever tried to take this class before?" He's like getting frustrated. But the best part was the egg never gets broken. The egg never gets hurt. And at the end of the episode, everybody gets like a C. but Terry and the girlfriend get an A+ because apparently the idea was, oh yeah, you took care of it, but you never stimulated the thing. Well, Terry's thing was stimulated 100% because he took it on all the mission. It was a great episode. He took the egg with the whole time. So he's got the bat suit, but he's got the egg in the back. And the egg would have like facial expressions, like smiling, crying, whatever. So he'd be like sitting there, he'd be like doing his thing, and the thing would be laughing every time he'd be like saving the world. So that was one of those great episodes where it was hysterical, but it worked.
And actually, they did introduce like a main villain in the first episode that I kind of wish they did more with, but they kind of just wrote him out at the end of the first season, and that was Blight.
Yeah, it was like the first season. They kind of, because he was like overdose of radiation from that disease, so and it kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then they brought in his son to take over the business, and you never saw him again after that.
Yeah,
interesting. So. All right, shall we move on? Because we've got a lot to discuss and very little more time to do this in. So
this might be a two-parter.
Let's have some quick blurbs here. Very well, maybe. Very well, maybe. That's on Mike because Mike's editing this one.
So it is on me, and it will be a two-parter. Rather fittingly, this episode ended up being supersized, so I will be splitting it into an epic two-parter. Will we succeed in covering the DC animated shows? Come back in about a week to find out. Same Bat podcast, same Bat channel. So, until next time, go forth and be nerdful. Talk to you later.
For some clown who thinks he's Batman. I am Batman.